Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This is a series that consists of spewing out assorted thoughts which arose from somebody who thinks too much, taking in, and generally loving various entertainment media by the boatload. These tidbits may be little theories, observations, or simply jokes. Please bear in mind that all these ideas come from the perspective of somebody who's experienced every main story bit connected with whatever is currently being gone over. So spoilers will be here. However, other works set in a shared continuity will typically solely be referenced in a way that only makes sense to anybody who's also fully experienced those ones up until their same time occurring points. Sort of a coded nod kind of deal. Now, with all of that out of the way, here we go. Briefly bisected bolt-bots before battle business probably involve temporarily holding together stability-starved structures until more permanent fixes could be made. These hopping almost bunny robots could have been created to scare away natural rabbits coming near important facilities so they don't multiply like themselves and create an adorable infestation. The Jolly Build sporting top dispenser androids might typically get Santa outfits and paint jobs whenever they are utilized by folks without advanced degrees in malevolent machine manufacturing. Bulldozer controlling meds may be extra plentiful during this game's event because Wily thought his plan to help oversee Gamma's creation and later swipe the thing would take much longer, but it didn't as a result of favorable weather conditions or whatever. That is, all the cover places for his current evil robot building shenanigans didn't even get mostly finished before final plan phase related things had to be initiated. Those giant cat bots that come with both jumbo furballs and oversized fleas are probably used under more peaceful conditions for unintentionally terrifying movies meant to teach kids about taking care of their pets. Drilling platforms such as these are likely normally utilized for spreading seeds that need to be planted in deep soil for some reason. Top Man is the supervisor of such an operation because his abnormal movement style grants him great insight on how often maintenance for these things must be performed. Background bolted brightness bathers are of course meant for helping these exotic plants grow during cloudy days and whatnot. Those machines located in the glass would be for making sure things never get too hot. The hard knuckle is Sir Spinning's supreme suffering supplier because it knocks him quite off balance. Mega's main weapon is able to achieve this feat just a tad as well. This whole area seems to be some kind of facility for chemical disposing. Proto-Man's probably checking things out here to make sure the illegal activities Wily's carrying out don't involve giant safety violations that could result in his brother getting melted during a heroic visit. Side-strolling cyber cyclops, standard society serving, likely involves crawling along walls of all kinds and checking for damage. Their metallic eyelids would be needed for cleaning dust and junk out of their natural organ-mimicking lenses. Delightful darkness delivering dome deals probably usually get used for quirky little shows at planetariums or whatever. These football player shinobi dudes were likely used for time-sensitive deliveries of waste disposal emergency handling products such as fire-quelling powder type things. Parachute packing plated puppets' plentiful placement probably has something to do with a scenario in which the only means of escaping facility-destroying hazards involves roof leaping or something. Shadow Man and his whole ninja theme could simply be a branding gimmick to garner more business for Albert's amoral activity adjacent abandoned article annihilating area. Ancient assassins are typically seen as quite full of discipline after all, a good trait to have during such strict rule-following activities like dangerous chemical removal. Dragonfly bots likely serve as both gravity-defying cameras and air temperature regulators. Those wings do seem like they're moving fast enough to work as fans. In addition to an experienced martial artist being caught off guard by the highly unrefined movements utilized while top spinning, being in charge of a facility that should be following incredibly strict procedures means manic mobility might leave Shadow Man quite appalled. Hence this astonishingly quick defeat. These plentiful cold-plug packing patrolling pieces pre-peril participation probably involved recharging fellow aerial artificials that were currently low on energy. Bola brandishing buffbots are likely meant for subduing any really rowdy robots that happen to possess extra-large appendages and everything. Peerless propulsion packing puny plated podium's practical purpose probably was that of a typical elevator. There, of course, would have been various safety features in place, such as brakes and other normal stopping-related hoopla. The differing colors of these lightning link loosing lumps likely has something to do with warning about varying voltage levels. Rush was developed because Light thought Mega Man would take better care of a dog friend than generically numbered items. No way would he let his canine buddy break after only one world-saving adventure. Mega Mangling metal mass making is simply the result of turning off every safety setting that comes with scrap sorting systems. Sparkman's mediocre performance against Shadow Blades could stem from something related to precision wire cutting. This place is likely some kind of final facility robots must pass tests at in order to be entered into society. An artificial being that fails against magnetism, like some kind of archaic chump, wouldn't be able to do much in Mega's world after all. These airborne, attraction-aversion alternating action armed automaton are probably meant for both lugging around failures and testing the polarity of fellow Ferrum freighters. Continuing on with this technology testing tide, Tidbit Talkin, Protoman's presence might involve him wanting to see if he himself is too out of date. Spring-separated segment sporting Steel Soldier Slayer's standard state seems like it would involve launching confetti or something else happy and harmless for celebratory purposes. The R's on those batteries located inside this stage's structures likely stands for reserve power. Rough rotation relishing robot's regular role really seems like it should be firing off lasers of the harmless light show variety. Intense heat can demagnetize things. Incredible concussive force can too. Lightning has both in spades. This sparky sphere is apparently close enough to said sky sent shocking. On the other hand, shade slicers make Mr. Magnetic miserable because there's some precise wire cutting going on that disables his electrically charged headgear. The various vicious animal-themed sporting baddie bots, hard hideout houses, are probably just security straddled with an intimidating motif for would-be intruder terrifying's sake. Risking or getting stolen in a robot-relying reality is simply something that can't be allowed. They all probably help with the mining process too, especially those gorilla deals with their opposable thumbs and everything. Those beast-based bots' bravado barely makes Proto-Man flinch though, as the lonely light lad can still trounce in and grab some parts for his self-performed maintenance. These visor-wearing death stompers likely exist to test the stability of structures. It may seem like overkill, but when most of an area's occupants are going to be robots that weigh at least 2 tons or whatever, lighter stability checking doesn't really work. The eye gear would of course be for preventing debris from getting all up in their vision. Hardman's large barrel-like body seems like it would be good for storing ore. Magnet missiles mop the floor with him because all that extra iron on his person provides a great boost to their velocity. That whole weird deal where Gemini, Snake, and Needle's weaknesses don't really allow for a smooth boss defeat path probably has something to do with simple errors related to mandatory emergency vulnerability installing getting made during these Robot Masters manufacturing. This area is said to be a crashed comet. It likely contains some kind of otherworldly substance that can be used for powering the crazy elemental and other spectacular effect-producing weaponry several Steel Soldiers sport. A trolling penguin pretender's pre-flight programming probably produced much exploration and video recording of the harsh cold environment-focused variety. The Antarctic animal aesthetic would be necessary in order to ensure that any people observing things from far away knew that whatever was being surveyed involved much human body-ruining coldness. Flying flame-flinging foes formerly found fulfillment from freeing friends facing frosty fatalities. Proto-Man doesn't conduct a skill-testing power battle here because destroying this huge metal thingamajig consumed too much of his energy. These ball-bundled, barely bobbing blue bots might typically serve the purpose of seeking out that previously mentioned extraterrestrial material. Those earlier mentioned lizard-bored bird bots being birthed by this monstrous machine mother might have something to do with forcing natural foes into believing an incredibly angry and powerful parent protects all wee wing wielders. Under normal conditions, scale-soaked sentinels likely shoot up warning flares that signify when the cold depths contain terrifying things like giant squids or whatever. Gemini Man's weaponry probably utilizes some of that aforementioned alien alloy in a way which doesn't involve any Terran natural element producing focus. His shady shuriken supply sort of significant strain might have something to do with him being so narcissistic that shiny surface scratching renders him weaker merely because of how upsetting it is. Search snakes supremely slam Sir Shininess since they are capable of discovering distinct vulnerabilities within each immaculately incandescent invading individual. Needleman's cover business in this shipyard likely has something to do with pest control. Nobody wants snakes and spiders filling such glorious galleons. Preposterously puffy, peasant-punishing porcupines probably provided intimidation to the just-mentioned tiny space invasion-capable unwanted guests so little spike weaponry-equipped allies could put them down more easily. Boat boundary breach botching big ball blasters before battle bit might have involved launching confetti to tantalize tourists. The vast majority of Mega Man games don't allow live stockpiles to surpass 9, even when they display double-digit counters. This adventure might be an exception because it involved Dr. Light testing out a new system for storing self-backup generated energy. It unfortunately involved utilizing too much power, and these kinks were never worked out. Risking an energy crisis somewhere down the line would be quite foolish after all. Sir Steel-skinned Sinister Spike struggle with astrology-themed lasers likely has something to do with bright lights and vision obscuring being so disliked that it lowers his defenses or whatever. The whole slithery reptile theme this stage sports might be because it's some kind of study center focused upon that aforementioned animal, and those in charge want anybody scared of such things to stay very far away, since if people don't freak out until they get close, much research ruining would ensue. Anyway, these boxy bots might be used to trap snakes when necessary. The cranium container content catapulting contraptions could be typically used for transporting first aid supplies and other vital deals. This whole pogo patrol probably exists because human-threatening slick scale strings aren't so well suited for battling against foes who can pounce even better than them. These kinda spider-like climbing tool patrolling bitty bots likely serve the purpose of annihilating actual arachnids and anything else that's able to ruin somebody's ladder climbing time. All the cloud-looking junk up here probably has to do with preventing research-wrecking weather during danger-deprived days. Snake Man's inefficiency against needle blasting could involve the spiky little things reaching his unarmored innards when they get launched and land in between steel scale segments. The earlier enemy emulating Dockbots are probably some sort of base mold for robot masters. After ordering one, the buyer would install custom parts and programming. Wily happened to have had a few extra during this game's events and installed previously used software, but there simply wasn't enough time for physical attribute changing. Disparity between bot brains and bolt-bearing bodies would lead to computing errors that give them all weaknesses somewhat close to their unique form-possessing original counterparts, like Shadow Blades being perceived as metal ones. These levels could simply be some extra property in the business districts and whatnot Wily sent his other creations to. They feature craziness such as missing ladders and huge chasms because their death trap construction didn't have time to reach completion. Meds getting spewed out by giant versions of themselves is likely the result of their base dispensers needing an incredibly obvious design, so those requiring many construction bots would know what must be bought right away. Helmets would of course be for performing maintenance on ladders and whatnot that either wound up weather-worn or tarantula torn. On a normal day, these wonderfully wheeled, wee little Nitron bots probably provide protection against malfunctioning machinery that goes rather fast, like out-of-control cars. Brakeman might be a copy of Proto-Man Wily whipped up after studying the real deal in exchange for providing some maintenance he couldn't perform on his own. This research is what led to him making better Mega Man copies down the line. One might say it even became his forte. This Skull Fortress's funding might have been provided by Albert pretending he was constructing some kind of island resort. These water filtration providing Kamegoro machines are only resistant to half of Mega Man's weaponry because Wily didn't have enough time for complete battle conversion performing. The Yellow Devil Mark II's trouble with Shadow Blades and Hard Knuckles is probably connected to its core, either getting protection sliced away or straight up having vital parts being knocked out. These savagely separated scrolling segments seem as if they are perversions of everyday escalators and or conveyor belts. Holograph Mega Man was likely created by combining info garnered from the recently mentioned study of Proto Man with knowledge of Gemini Man's light-based equipment. These messy machines might have originally been intended to have some sort of butler theme installed back when the full-on vacation plan disguise looked like it had enough time for completion. The boss rematch rooms were likely covered up by claiming luxury suites were being built. These exit signs would have been required under such circumstances because folks who aren't super fighting robots might not be familiar with pad-based teleportation tech. Wily Machine 3's problem with electricity might have something to do with the sparks short-circuiting sub-shooters. The Shadow Blade and Hard Knuckle trouble its second phase because they mess with wiring inside that oddly obvious power source. Gamma's first phase shares weaknesses with Wily Machine 3's second one because he installed a backup version of said vehicle as its cockpit. The Surge, Snake, and Topspin destroyed this big bot rather handily afterwards because it never had defenses for odd movement patterns installed. Speaking of design choices, this great Greek gadget was probably meant to be used as a giant mobile shelter for folks facing down natural disasters. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.